Dear guests and respected representatives of embassy, government, non-governmental, private and academic sector, welcome to second Serbian-French Innovation Forum, where we are going to speak about different kinds of innovations and its impact on both Serbian and French economies and societies. My name is Jelisaveta Lazarević. I am Vice Dean at FEFA faculty, also board member at AFA organization, and thanks to the French Embassy and French Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs, also PIPA alumni, and it is with great pleasure to be your host today. So, just to shortly make you maybe more interested in some of our topics today. In the analysis of the tech trends, McKinsey defined biorevolution as one of the top tech trends that will have the highest potential to actually change and improve our lives. Grandview research shows that the biotechnology market will be worth $2.44 trillion by 2028. The bioinformatics application segment is expected to expand at the fastest growth rate from 2021 to 2028, and it's going to be like owing to the interesting adoption of these tools for analyzing complex sequencing data. Biotechnology, nanobiotechnology, is actually expected to expand at lucrative growth rate of 16.8% over the forecast period, and that is thanks to the growing focus on the nanotechnologies for efficient drug delivery and increasing research using this technology. And how can we actually all together become beneficiaries of those growth? And how can we become the part of this growth? That is like the question that is going to be answered by our speakers today. So I would not like to prolong the introductory part anymore. Instead, I would like to invite our speakers to welcome you through some welcoming speeches. So firstly, I would call His Excellency, Mr. Pierre Cochard, Ambassador of France to Serbia, to join me on the stage.
Mrs. Minister, dear Jelena Begovic, dear Maria Filipovic, distinguished Serbian and French speakers, dear deans, researchers, companies, representatives, and students, dear partners, it's my great pleasure to open the second edition of our Serbian-French Innovation Forum, which will focus on energy and biotechnologies sectors. With this event, we want to foster partnerships between Serbian and French stakeholders while emphasizing opportunities offered by, first, our bilateral Pavle Savic program launched already 20 years ago. Also European programs such as Horizon Europe, our new program IT Make Science for Serbian scientists to encourage them to develop new partnerships with their French counterparts. And finally, the new program that we will launch today called Mission France, which will be again launched with the selection today of 4 startups that will be invited to visit France and to start relations with French counterparts. We have designed this forum based on a very simple question: what is needed to develop innovative solutions and products? Firstly, we need to encourage the entrepreneurial mindset of the researchers, and the first panel of today aims at tackling this stake. Second, we need talented students and researchers and help them develop their scientific research projects. And third, these talents, they need the support from companies and national European institutions which can invest into these innovative game changers projects, such as artificial intelligence 20 years ago and quantum computing tomorrow. With Minister Begovic, we are convinced that there would be no innovation that could positively impact our daily life without passionate scientists and researchers. And we are really honored to have among our distinguished guests some beneficiaries of our bilateral scientific program Pavle Savic, launched, as I said before, 20 years ago. I would also like to, of course, personally thank all the speakers who are coming from France to demonstrate that France is not only the country of wine, it is, of course, the country of wine, culture, and not only also the country of strikes sometimes, but also a great country for innovation with a rich history of successful partnership between research and industry. Among the French speakers, I would like to thank Borina Andrieux, DG of the famous worldwide architects cabinet Villemotte et Associés, which has developed a great expertise to design and construct buildings for the needs of the so-called new economy, while facilitating the development of ecosystems like Station F, which gathers in Paris research centers, startups, and big companies. I would like also to thank Professor Laurent Larger from Femto ST Engineering, who has developed great expertise in the field of energy and biotechnology, and Vincent Bonnet from LAS Research Center. These two research and valorization centers stand for the international credibility of CNRS, the French National Center for Research and Science. Would like to thank also Professor Franck Duménil from Lille University, who will tell us more about this success, his success as French scientist, entrepreneur. Jean-Baptiste Boissou, who will tell us more about quantum computing and how it will impact our life. For example, by improving our capacity to develop new drugs to solve human diseases or fight against virus. And finally, I want to thank also Solène Gatelier from the French Ministry of Science, who will tell us more about opportunities offered by Horizon Europe program to the scientists and startups. Dear Jelena, dear Serbian speakers, it will be also inspiring for French participants to discover that Serbia is not only the country of basketball or Kusturica movies. We are all witness here, and I'm personally witness of Serbian scientific excellence, and you are the perfect illustration of this. We are also convinced that Serbian and French ecosystems share same DNA for innovation and willingness to cooperate even more. This is why I'm pleased to officially launch our new program, Mission France, which will offer the opportunity to Serbian startups to discover French market. More than 30 Serbian startups have applied for the first edition of this program, and I would like to thank all of their CTO, CEO, and CSO who are with us today. Finally, I would like also to thank the Serbian scientific tech parks for their involvement and support, and especially Jelena Petrovic. I also would like to thank our French public bank, BPI, for co-financing this great program, and French Tech Belgrade, of course, also. This program gives the opportunity to 4 Serbian startups to go to France in June to meet potential partners, investors, and discover exciting innovation ecosystems such as Station F, the world's biggest startup accelerator in the very center of our capital. Laureates will also visit Renault Technological Center, thanks to the great support of Dr. Luc Julia, who has accepted to become the president of our Mission France, of our Mission France jury, and who is involved in our project Software République, an incubator which gathers French worldwide leading companies such as Thales, Orange, Atos, ST Microelectronics, Renault, and Dassault Systèmes. Thank you to all for your attention and very good day of exchange today around innovation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. And how can we actually place Serbia on the global map of biotech competitiveness landscape? Professor Jelena Begović, Minister of Science and Innovation, knows the answer. So I would like to ask you to join me here on stage.
Your Excellency, the Ambassador of the Republic of France, Monsieur Cochard, dear Director of Tempus Foundation, Ms. Filipović-Ožegović, dear distinguished guests from France, dear guests from Serbia, including deans, directors, researchers, entrepreneurs, present and future, dear all. First of all, let me welcome you in front of the Ministry of Science, Technological Development and Innovation. And let me express my really excitement to be today on this second Serbian Innovation Forum. I'm also thrilled to be with you here today, and it is really exciting to meet and see such a distinguished group of experts gathered here today to discuss science and innovation and how we can work together, how we can use our knowledge and science to develop innovations collaborating with France. 20 years ago, our bilateral program, Pavle Savić, was launched, and still it's a very successful program for partnering in science between researchers of our two countries. IT Makes Science provides a chance for our scientists to visit France. As you heard, now a new program, Mission France, will be launched today. So we are definitely already collaborating. But today we will talk about the importance of innovation as a way of thinking and how we can promote entrepreneurship among researchers. And this is our goal. Innovation is not just about developing new technologies or developing new products. It's also about finding new ways to solve problems, to improve processes, and to create value. Innovation is a mindset that allows us to look at the world with fresh eyes and find opportunities where others see only challenges and see things before they become obvious. As researchers, you're already at the forefront of innovation. You have the knowledge, you have the expertise, and creativity to push the boundaries of what is possible. But to truly make a difference, one needs to embrace the entrepreneurship mindset. Well, entrepreneurship is definitely about taking the risks, seizing opportunities, and turning ideas into reality. It's about being proactive, adaptable, and persistent in the face of challenges. It's not just for business people. It's very important to understand. It's for everyone who wants to make a difference in the world. So how can we promote, as a government, as a society, entrepreneurship among researchers? Well, we do need to provide them with skills and with resources. And then they need to turn ideas into the products. This means offering trainings, mentorship programs, but also forums and spots of collaboration like we have here today. As you know, Serbia has a long tradition of good education, excellent science, particularly in STEM areas, STEM fields, within 123 faculties and 65 research institutes. We have a full access to EU funds, including Horizon Europe. But also, Serbia established a national fund for funding science, science fund, innovation fund. So these are all supporting mechanisms for the development, on one side, scientific excellence, but also on the other side, a culture of ecosystem that values innovation and entrepreneurship. Serbia is also investing heavily in a strong innovation ecosystem and infrastructure through building and developing science and technology parks all around Serbia, through establishment of different innovation startup centers all around Serbia. So we are building the basis for entrepreneurship and innovation development. Why are we doing this? I mean, our goal is to adapt more efficiently and rapidly to global trends, which are again dictated by global challenges. By global challenges, I mean challenges in energy, environment protection, medicine, food production, agriculture. And you know that everyone is expecting that science will give the answer. So, commercialization and internalization of our domestic innovative solution can and will be of great importance for the development of the domestic economy, but also domestic of our society. Particularly, this is important because Serbia is a small country and is struggling with a small industrial base and a small market. This is why we need partnership. This is why we need collaboration. And Serbia needs partners like France, a country with a strong science and amazingly developed innovation system. So we need to collaborate for our further growth and for our further development. So at the end, in conclusion, I mean, innovation and entrepreneurship are not just the buzzwords. They are essential components of thriving and dynamic economy and society. And as researchers and as future entrepreneurs, you do have a potential to drive innovation and create really a positive change in our society. So let's work together to promote innovation and entrepreneurship and unleash the full potential of our innovation ecosystem. So I really hope that today's communication and today's exquisite panelists will provoke your thoughts and that they will inspire you and somehow provide you exchange of experience, but also a chance to network, to communicate. So in front of the ministry, I really encourage you to make the most of this opportunity and to engage in networking with our partners from France. Once again, I really wish you fruitful and inspiring forum today. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Minister Begovic. I'm sorry, but I would kindly ask you to stay with me on stage. Actually, very inspired by your speech. We can take a seat here. Inspired by your speech, and especially the fact that you mentioned that we should see things before they became obvious, and as Rita McGrath say, we should see around the corner. So I would like to ask you several things about around the corner and what actually can we expect from the future and different projects you at the ministry are developing. So McKinsey says that the biorevolution, I actually started with this, is the revolution that is transforming our economies, societies, and our lives. What can you tell us about the future and projects contributed to it from the perspective of Bio4? So just this.
Okay, thank you. Oh, it's working, yeah. So actually, for those who don't know, just in few words, what is Bio4? So we are creating a kind of new platform for biotech in Serbia, where we want to put all the stakeholders and everything that we have in Serbia on one place. So we want to gather higher education faculties, research institutes, startup ecosystem, and science technology parks for the support of startup ecosystem, and private sector, so biopharma companies. And we want to put them together And we want to create the environment where they communicate formally and informally. And through the exchange of experience like we're having today, we're expecting, to have the results, to have very strong collaboration with industry, development of innovations. So to really move the whole ecosystem, we do have a good science, but we still lack this step towards the development of innovation. Things are moving forward, definitely, and we do have good results thanks to Innovation Fund, different forums and different events that are creating from step to step, the ecosystem. So our idea is to gather around 4 bios. That's why it's called Bio 4. Biotechnology, biomedicine, bioinformatics, and biodiversity. We see these areas as areas of future development of Serbia. We did have a huge success in ICT industry with technology transfer in this area, with a lot of startup companies that are growing from this field. Now we're focused on biotech, and we do have biotech in Serbia. We had it for past 50 years, and we are good at it. So we now need to create the environment to really do the translation of our knowledge. And this is something that, we have to learn, and we are still learning. But I'm very, very optimistic, and I think this Bio4 project gave some kind of a boost to scientific ecosystem. The government is investing in us. The government has recognized us. This is a good sign for us.
Okay, and when we speak about those biotech projects, we actually speak about those that are, on the one hand, very expensive, on the other hand, long-term ones. And under those circumstances, how do you see our ecosystem for such projects, and where is Bio4 in this ecosystem?
Okay, so to develop really innovation in biotech, it's very easy, to compare it with IT. So in IT, you don't require huge amount of money and financial support. You do need it, but when you talk about biotech, you have to add at least 3 zeros or 4 zeros. It's expensive, it's time consuming. You have to go very often, if we're talking about new drugs or new biologics, through different stages from R&D, through preclinical, clinical trial, all the regulatory procedures. In parallel, you have to protect your IP, and all of these steps are expensive, time-consuming, very often complicated. Sometimes you ask yourself, do I need this? But you have to go through those steps. And even if you're on the last step, there is a still high risk that you're not going to succeed. And then you end up on the market, but you invested so much in this product that it's so expensive, so the patients cannot get it if the healthcare system is not covering or some other insurance system is not covering. And then you're facing other companies, it's extremely competitive field. Big companies and big players are also there, and you have to, somehow sail through all these obstacles as a startup, and you need a bit of luck, I guess, in order to really succeed. But on the other hand, if the idea is really breakthrough, you will find a way.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Minister Begovic, for very insightful answers. And I would kindly ask you again to stay with me. And I would also like to invite, we can stand up now, Mr. Ambassador Pierre Cochard to join us here again, because we will now have awarding ceremony. Actually, here today we will speak a lot about the future. And on the other hand, it is very easy to be exposed to the future. The way to be exposed is actually to speak with younger generations. Younger generations are today with us, and I would really like to invite our hackathon winners, Mihailo, Stefan, and Boško, big bravo, from Kragujevac University. They won the first place at the hackathon that was organized yesterday in Tempus Foundation. So welcome and congratulations, and Minister Begovic and Ambassador Pierre Cochard are going to give you awards now. A možete stanete tu za sliku. So they developed the solution for energy for 2030, and the solution is related to wind and solar power. So congratulations one more time. You were really brilliant, and thank you for joining us today. Okay, great. And thank you, yes, thank you very much, Minister Begovic. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador Pierre Cochard. And it is my great pleasure now to invite the representative of the partner institution of Serbian French Innovation Forum, Marija Filipović-Ožegović. She is the General Director of the Tempus Foundation, and thank you for joining us today, Marija. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Good morning. It is definitely a pleasure to be here today. Your Excellency, Madam Minister, dear colleagues, dear friends, dear guests from France, it's a great pleasure. The innovations are something that are understood to be done in today's ecosystem. However, there are still times when we ask ourselves, should we innovate? Is it something that we should really do? Or someone else can do it and I can continue to do my job? Because it is easier that way, and I'm not going to risk anything, I'm not going to try, then I will not going to fail if I do not try. This mindset that sometimes prevents us from trying, and with the years spent in the education system, the years spent in the training for the research, sometimes we think that only what is conventional should be done, what is expected of us should be done. And there we make a mistake, because if we do not go towards innovations, we are going to stop the development of our country, of our society, of our enterprise, of where we are. And of course, it is understandable if some of our attempts are not successful enough. This is why we have to try several times, and I know that the researchers know better that than me, because in order to be a successful researcher, your experiment is not going to be successful miraculously from the first attempt. Sometimes you have to try and keep trying, even for years, in order to come to this solution. And then this is rewarding, as well as the process of innovation is rewarding in itself. Partnership is extremely important to Serbia, extremely important to our organizations and institutions, because with partnerships we grow. There are no frontiers in science, there are no frontiers in higher education, and the only thing that we can do is to continue to grow together, using the instruments that we can for funding the innovations. Minister Begovic mentioned some of the national instruments that are already in place that can be used, which is extremely important for our system and for our researchers to really have the tools. But I would also mention the Erasmus Plus program and the Horizon Europe. Later on, we are going to hear something about Horizon Europe. And probably most of the people in the room already participated in one way or another in Horizon and the FP7, 6, etc. But when it comes to the Erasmus program, we usually think that the Erasmus does not cover research in any way. But this is partially a mistake. Most of the types of the projects under the Erasmus Plus are related to mobility, to general capacity building of the education system, etc. But some of them that are prestigious types of projects with the larger budgets, directly funded by the executive agency in Brussels, also foster the innovation and also foster the development of science as well. These are European universities, but also knowledge alliances. Those projects are worth several million euros, and usually these are the consortia that are made and prepared for the long-term cooperation. And here with our distinguished guests from France and also distinguished guests from Serbia, we can also discuss the long-term cooperation, because nobody who invested the time to come here and to discuss, to develop, to share the ideas and the know-how, I suppose didn't think I'm going to do it once and then I'm not going to do it at all. So I sincerely hope that all the breaks that we're going to have today are going to be fruitful enough, and that the results of the forum will also be seen in the years to come. I wish you a successful conference.
Thank you very much, Maria. And now it is really with great pleasure that our next speaker is a woman who turns a historical building into the biggest startup incubator in the world, Station F. I had the opportunity to visit it, and it's really incredible, like she is. She's an innovator in architecture with a particular interest in the city and responsible architecture nurturing a human-centric approach. She is the director of Wilmot and Associates, the firm that unites 250 employees of 27 different nationalities and operates in 23 countries. She's Borina Andreou. Welcome. Looking forward to your speech. Here is the micro.
Dobar dan. Actually, I think I'm gonna stand. And thank you very much for inviting me. I think it's a very, very good idea and very good opportunity to do something, such an innovation forum between France and Serbia. It's something that it's really, I would say, quite normal, because our two countries are very similar. I think the research level in both countries is very high. We have a lot in common in history and culture, and our science should go ahead together. And you know, when we speak about innovation, we have here very, very distinguished people from both countries present, and I'm extremely happy that the young generation is here in terms of all the startuppers that we will be very happy to welcome in June in Paris. And I think this is our future. But to go back to ground, I would like to show you a little bit about this very interesting project, the Station F, because it puts together two things. People together in something that it's completely, I would say, in a strange way put them together, because there were people used to work in their mother's garage or in a small room, or their children's room surrounded by old toys and something like that, very, very much alone, and to put them in an ecosystem that favorizes the collaborative thinking and searching. And I think this is something that we should go for. So this is a little bit about our company, but we've been very well introduced. So Station F, everything started like that. And actually, Xavier Niel, who is the owner of this, it's a private-owned institution, because it's an institution. And you have to know that already this building was a very innovative building since the beginning. The building, it's situated, you see, it's the blue thing on the map. It was built in 1927 by a very famous French architect called Eugène Freycinet, who is the father of the pre-stressed concrete. So this building, it's the Eiffel Tower length. It's 310 meters long and 58 meters wide. And the way it was done, you see, it became like a barrier in this area. So first of all, it was a kind of urban project. And I think when we do urban renovation or urban regeneration, this is the first thing that we should think about. It's how to open the space to public, how to give them the possibility to get very close to it and even to enter it. So you see the building with the 3 naves. It was built in 1927 as a goods merchant, a merchandise station. It's a shed, and it looked like that once we visited the first time. And Xavier Niel, the program that we got for this building, he said, made me a building for 1,000 startups. This was the scope of work. So, the president of our firm and the founder, Jean-Michel Wilmot, he didn't know what was a startup. So we started visiting different places, like there was the School 42, etc., etc. And we saw how those people used to work. So this was the building. You see, it had been modified a lot with a completely strange facade. And so this is the new program that we made. Oops, don't go too fast. So it was divided into 3 zones. So we, first of all, made a kind of openings, internal streets between the 3 different programs. So the first zone, it's called the share zone. It's a zone that it's semi-public. You have to know that it's a very secured place in the sense that it's the French Silicon Valley. You have all the brains concentrated, not all, but most of, Parisian typology of startups are there, and it has to be very protected. So the first zone is semi-public, because this is the place that there is a big auditorium of 370 seats. You have a reception area, you have the Fab Lab, you have the place that the startupper meets their lawyers or their future clients or the investors. Then you have a second zone, which is a zone called Create. It's really the startup zone, which is absolutely protected. You don't get easily there. Of course, you are going to visit it completely, but no, not invited people are not accepted. And then you have what we call the chill zone. It's the restaurant, which is open almost the 24 hours per day. And it's a very festive place. So people work also there, but they enjoy themselves a lot. And the restaurant was open 3 or 4 months after the rest of the building. And believe me, Station F started really working once we opened the restaurant. So we have to think about that. So this is the share zone. So the zone that receives events, that you have hire it, because you always have to think about the financial side, the economical side of the building. And I'm very happy what Minister Begovic said. So we have to be very much aware that things there is a value creation, but also we have to receive enough support to develop the things properly. And otherwise the project, they remain on a paper or it doesn't function. You open it and then you have to close it at a certain point. So economically it has to be autosufficient, because actually the places are for rent for a very low amount of money, because again, those people, they were working alone. And it's important to put them together because the network, it's fantastic. You really make those people live together in a certain way. So the multi-purpose space, it's a place that you have all kinds of events. They also dance there. They do yoga classes. It's very funny to see. And then you see, this is the building, how we found it. So the restoration was extremely difficult because, as I said, it's a listed building. So the protection is extremely high. And you know better than me what it's pre-stressed concrete. So you had, iron in it, and this iron was rusted. So it had to be cleaned and restored. And then once we do this kind of revival of a building, what we call the architectural graft, it has to be reversible. So at certain point, if you decide to dismantle everything, it's dismantleable. And you're not allowed to touch the structure of the building itself, which is also, it's also very important. So you see, we dug in order to do this auditorium, which has certain, requirements. So it was quite an exceptional site. So this is how it looks today. So you have the master stage, the place that they dance that I told you. And downstairs you have this auditorium. And here you have one part of Wilmot and Associated, because we like to do parties in the places that we build. The create zone, which is in the center of the building, also I want to mention one thing, the respect of the existing building. We had this fantastic opportunity to have those naves that are long 310 meters, as I told you. And we managed to do it in such a way that always from each point you have a full view of the architecture of the building, which is a very motivating place to the young startuppers. Because when you give a frame for work, a working space that it's beautiful, that's efficient, that it's pleasant, you give people pride, and they feel proud to belong to a community that is working in such a wonderful place. And by the way, this is a little bit of advertising for the company. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so this is the creating zone. It looked like that, and so you see, we organized all the things. It's called villages. So each village has, it's a typology of containers. And there was a big challenge without touching the structure. You see all the lighting, which was completely design bespoke, they're just clipped on the beams, and nothing is really on the walls. And again, everything is dismantleable, and it could be reversible. So the other thing and we are in an eco-friendly building, so we had to think about heating, about cooling, and about acoustics, which is the worst thing, that if you are in a noisy place, you cannot work. Even if you're very young and you have your, plugs in the ears, it doesn't work. So you see, you have lots of zones that they are completely open. It's an open space work, and at the same time you have something that you can have a small meeting room, you have a place to lay down and have a nap. And also we studied the way those people were working, so we designed a special furniture, because you see it's a kind of Y shape, and they move, and sometimes they lie down, and this typology of benches that it's some of you recognize, it's inspired by La Péniche de Sciences Po, and it's a place that people stay there, and they have lots of interaction. This is one of the perpendicular streets that I told you. We opened 2 public passages in order to open the building to the public. But as you have lots of glass, everything is visible. And the chill zone, this is the chill zone, and the whole building is 35,000 square meters. So we put the 2 wagons before putting the facade, because otherwise it was impossible to bring them in. And it's called Felicita. It's run by a startup, by the way, and there's lots of Italian cuisine. And it's a big fun. It looks messy, but it works. And so the construction site, few elements. So how to refurbish, preserve, and enhance this incredible structure. So maintain the length, and also integrate everything which was necessary for the proper functioning of a building like that. Because the main thing, it's this is what we call, again, the architectural graft. It's how to give a second life to a building or a bunch of buildings with the new technology, respecting the building, but change the use. And this is, you know, a little bit of figures. We like the figures: 10 months of design studies, 14 months of execution, a little bit over than 2 years of construction work. And you have to know that once the auditorium was built, there was a problem with the municipality water system, so everything was flooded. So we had to redo the auditorium a month before the opening. But those things are really, really happening, so in real life. And the glazing, of course, it's very important. So this is what we did. This is the existing structure. You see this, you know, we have a height from 14 to 16 meters, and then we have a natural ventilation. It's interesting to see how we could give this kind of new life with technical galleries, increasing the size of the building itself, and at the same time be extremely respectful to the building. I'm just checking the time because I know that I'm very talkative and I should not, but I have someone who is checking on me. So this is so first of all, we clean up completely the building from everything which was added. And you see those semi-barrels, actually the lorries would come there to unload and take the merchandise arriving by train, and then go in Paris to distribute them. And actually this was also a kind of contra load to the building. And this is what became the building. And the work, this is the future auditorium, as I told you. This is the chill zone with the vegans. And this is the other facade, which is much more open because the use is to be a restaurant, so it has to be really open. And it's a very, very, very pleasant building. So a new generation of entrepreneurs. So you have different kind of startup. You have single persons, sometimes 3 or 4 you know, people, or you have all the big companies, they have their research and development startups there. So it's a very mixed public, and the price, I think it starts from around 300 euros, the rent of a place there per month. And also we built a program which is additional program of housing, which is 10 minutes away from there. And because there was a big problem to have a housing in Paris, you know that it's very expensive, and to be able to rent a place, especially when you're a stranger, you need to have a bank account. You have the bank account if you have a place to live in. So it's quite complicated, and this is the way that we gave them the possibility to have also a housing. And so you have 1,000 startups, 9,000 people, building capacity, and you know, you have lots of coffee shops and bars, and you have plenty of additional spaces, and people are really happy. And I think they use this space, and the place is completely neat. We celebrated the 5 years of Station F a few months ago, and believe me, the place, it's like new. Means that people respect it a lot. So that's it. I maybe very quickly, if we have 5 minutes, I will show you how to change a building. So this was a very ugly building in Lyon, and up, you see, it changed completely. It became a place. It was a former custom building. So how to redo a building with the new technology. This is something which is completely different. It was a weapon building, weapon factory in Beijing, in the north of Beijing. And in 2007, we converted it, it was like that. We converted it into a contemporary arts museum. It's called UCCA, 14 months of work. And we kept the memory of a site, and it's still functioning and very, very well. This is a project that I really like. It's called Collège de Bernardin, building from 1307. And we found it like that. It's in Paris. And now it looks like that. We had to restore the building because they put inside a fireman's brigade. So inside they had cut some of the pillars. We completely reconstructed the building with the new technology. So we put metal structure, and this metal structure authorized us to do in the same volume as the original building auditoriums that are very, very well used. And you see, why, so the firemen had this kind of because to put, you know, the lorries, they had to, you know, to cut off the structure. Now the structure has been renovated. And for those people who like wine, I think there is no one person in this room that would say no. This is a building that we do lots of wineries. So this is one very close to Bordeaux. It's Chateau Pédesclos. So you see, the building was like that, and we gave some wings to this building, and I think it's really interesting to see how you can combine old and new. And this is, for instance, an old hospital, l'Hôpital Richaud. It's an 18th century building in Versailles, so you can see the influence of Le Nôtre. It was like that. It burned several times, and now it's housing, actually. It's a beautiful building, because we push very much to the renovation, because when you renovate a building, you have really a unique thing, because you have the generosity of the existing building, which gives you the opportunity to do something completely new. And for fun, I'm showing you, you see, you have here, it's on the Seine River. There were two buildings from 1948, belong to the forecast Météo France. They were knocked down, and we built the Orthodox Cultural and Spiritual Center. So it was like that, and it became something that people always think that it already existed because it's very, very integrated. So this is also an old hospital that we turned to houses, and this is, for instance, for a completely new project. So I know that you have lots of abandoned spaces. Let's do something together. It's really fantastic. And it can be, so this is the American Hospital in Paris. We added a new building, and this is in Marseille. It's the academy of people who are learning to become, and it's a beautiful thing. And to finish by a station, this is the Austerlitz station that was related to the Station F, and we are completely redoing the building, putting a kind of dirigible inside, because this was the place where the dirigible started from. And we have a foundation for young architects to teach them how to do renovation. And we opened for the first year this competition, which was meant for European students in architecture and young professionals. So we open it to the Serbian students, and we have lots of people who responded. The jury is meeting next week on the 14th, and the winners are going to be exhibited in Venice to the Biennale. So thank you very much, and if you have questions, I'm here.
Bravo, Vorina. Thank you very much. It was amazing, really.
Thank you, thank you.
Very inspiring.
So, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So thank you once again, Verena. I'm sure you inspired a lot of people in this room. So now I would like to announce a coffee break, and that is also like available time for networking. And we see again in 20 minutes when our roundtables are going to start. Thank you very much once again. Okay, welcome back. So we are now going to continue our discussions related to innovations, of course, and we are going to do that through 3 roundtables. So the first one is related to one very interesting title that is actually sounds like this: Innovation is a mindset. So it is with great pleasure to invite now our speakers that are going to tackle this topic. So Frank Dumenil, Vice President at Valorization of University of Lille, welcome. You can take your seat. Welcome, you can take your seat here, yes. It is with great pleasure that on second Serbian French Innovation Forum, as on first as well, we have with us Luc Julia, Chief Scientist Officer of Renault Group. Welcome, Luc. And today with us is also Laurent Larger, Director of Femto Engineering at the University of France, Comté. So thank you very much for joining us, and I would actually like to start with one thing that they actually teach you in business school and is related to the next thing, that innovation is not innovation if you do not monetize it. So in this first round, I would just like to ask you very quick questions for warming up. Main challenges for innovation monetization in your fields. Look.
Thank you. The main challenge. So, I mean, I think that innovation is great when you are targeting the product that you are working on the service or whatever, to real people.
Mm-hmm.
So to real needs. And because, you know, one of the issues maybe sometimes when we innovate is that we innovate as engineers or something, you know, and we go in our field and we just, you know, think about ourselves and not think about the people and not think about the real needs. So that's why most of the times when we create a startup or whatever, you are going to have to pivot, you know, in order to go back to reality. So I would say that, you know, do it for real people.
And Frank, in your field?
Yeah, I think this is just a step backward innovation that is the main hurdle. In fact, as a scientist, and for the scientist, first thing you do is discovery. And then you have to translate this discovery into innovation. And if nobody tells you that it can be innovation, you won't make the innovation, and then you won't make the money on this. So this is actually the title of this roundtable. This is a mindset, which is very important, and detection and motivation of the researchers to make innovation from discovery.
Okay, and Laurent? Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, and when we speak about monetization, one thing that is, I'm sure that was pretty well monetized is actually ChatGPT. Look, I asked ChatGPT what is the next big thing when it comes to artificial intelligence, and it answered that it's difficult to predict what certainly what the next big thing in AI will be. And I also asked him to help me to actually make some question for you. And so here is the question. What are the current cutting-edge researches in the field of AI?
So two things before. I mean, you should have asked Elon Musk, because I'm sure that he would have had an answer. And second, I mean, don't say him. Say it, please.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I mean it's important. So what's the next thing? The next big thing in AI? I mean, of course, I'm not Elon Musk, so I'm not going to be able to tell you that. But for sure, AI is evolving, and the last round that we just saw with ChatGPT and other generative AIs. This is a step. This is an interesting step, but it's just a step. It's not a revolution. And we are going to continue to see, there are two ways, I mean, from where we are today, basically. There is the way where we are going to continue to build those tools in the right way, in the sense that we are not going to push them on the side that is going to be so wrong with all the hallucination that we are talking about, where we are talking about those generative AIs. If there are too many hallucinations, it's going to die. Basically, we are maybe not on the top, but we are on the ascending phase of the hype right now for the generative AIs. So they might very well, they will at one point go a little bit down, but they can crash if we make them with the wrong data, let's say. Okay, so they are going to deliver the wrong answers, basically, more and more. We have to know that today the generative AIs, I mean, talking specifically about ChatGPT. ChatGPT has a pertinence of 64%. Okay, so this is something that we never say because we are all excited about it, but we need to know that it's very low pertinence, right? Mm-hmm. So accuracy. So if we build the next generations of GPTs upon the same thing, the pertinence is actually going to go down. And so people are going to find out and it's going to die. If we regulate, so this is the big word, but if we regulate a little bit this thing, by saying we are going to mark those things with some kind of watermarking or something in order not to use the results for the next generations, the pertinence will go up, actually it will be better. So this is a choice of ours. This is a choice of the regulation, of the regulator. So we'll see. But for sure, those kind of AIs, because there is not one, but there are many, many, those kind of AIs are going to be more and more interesting in the next few years in very narrow fields that are going to be very, very good. If we use them as a generic tool, it won't work. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. And Frank, through its research, University of Lille addressed a major transition facing our society in all their dimensions through 4 interdisciplinary research and fields. So precision health, science for a changing planet, the digital world at the service of humans, changing cultures, societies, and practices. So where you made the highest valorization and how, in which of mentioned fields?
Yeah, so we made obviously valorization in these 4 fields, but till now the highest valorization rate was on health. Mm-hmm. So there are a few different explanations for this. First, we had a specific incubator which was created in 1909, which was under the law called Allègre, and it boosted the creation of startups. At that time, we had a spin-off company called GenFit, in which the university took some shares, and it boomed, and we could recover some money, I think 15 million euros, to create our own foundation of University of Lille. So we started something like this. Then we injected a lot of efforts on health, thanks to this specific incubator. And we created a lot of different spin-offs on Alzheimer, on diabetes, on tuberculosis, on health monitoring, and so on. And I don't remember the exact figures, but in 10 years, I think we could gather more than 200 million euros of funding to raise this spin-off to make them becoming greater companies. So one of the specificities of University of Lille to this respect is that we have just next to the university a university hospital, and our region is very highly populated. So around this hospital, in let's say a perimeter of 50 kilometers, we have more than 2 million people. So it's very, very active. And our hospital has put some personnel inside our laboratories. So in our laboratories, we have people from the hospital working with the researchers from the university on the same kind of projects. So it boosted the innovation, because obviously the hospital has to deliver TRL9 proof of concept, not proof of concepts because it's TRL9. They have to cure the patients, to do things that are that have a real effect. So they want to put innovation on the market, and this was a huge driver. Now what we are doing, thanks to a new call for tender from the government called the Pôle Universitaire d'Innovation, which means cluster, university cluster of innovation, we are now taking these good practices from the health sector, but from the other sectors as well, in order to put these nice practices in all of these four thematics you mentioned, so that we will make a synergy and take the best of each of our thematics to make innovation by copying the good practices, such as hackathons or also boot camps. We also have what we call boot camps. It was developed in the health sector, and we will replicate it to all of these sectors. So what is a boot camp? Maybe you are familiar with that. Very quickly, we put students with professionals, and we ask them to develop their own company from one idea, which can be crazy or not, or based on a patent from the university. And they have 2 days, 48 hours to design a project, and then they are followed during 6 months till the creation, or not, if that's not successful, of a startup.
Okay, thank you. And Lohan, let's speak a little bit about also, of course, the future. So when we speak about next generation materials like graphene or 2D materials or nanomaterials and the range of smart, responsive and lightweight materials, they can actually enable new functionality and enhance performance, for example, in pharma, energy, transportation, health, semiconductors and manufacturing. You have one micro nano fabrication center. So have any spin-offs arose from that center, or any other center or department you have, and how did you gather researchers around Femto-ST? Mhm. 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 Thank you. And again, one question for all of you. You mentioned, for example, tech centers, we mentioned talents and so on. But what is like the most important thing to encourage innovations in your fields? Frank?
So in my own field, because I am a chemist and I specialize in bioeconomy and biorefineries, and maybe for the other fields is the same, to make a short answer, is to showcase success stories. This is the main point. When you have one success stories, you have a lot of people interested in it, and they follow it, and they want to make also the same kind of story.
Look.
I think that the thing that we did the most when we did innovate and when it worked was, and it shouldn't go out of this room, by the way, it was in comfort.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that, you know, you are not going to innovate if you do the same thing that you were doing yesterday. And so the two, I don't have any recipe. I mean, there is no recipe really, but the two things that worked several times were putting people in a position that is not comfortable, that they are going to be faced with a problem or something that we ask that is something new and something incredible and something that I have no idea how to do. And the second one is to mix up people, you know. So if I do something with only people that have the same background, you know, as mine, I mean, we're all going to think the same way.
Yeah.
So what I like, and especially this is the recipe that we have in the Silicon Valley, because I mean, this is what I'm doing there. We have people coming from all the cultures, right? So from all over the world, and from a lot of different backgrounds in terms of education. And so we put them, you know, in the same room, and this is this, you know, melting pot that we are talking about when we are talking about, you know, the states in general, and that, you know, create emulation that is just incredible. So again, it doesn't work every time. I mean, we have to recognize sometimes, you know, the failures, but I would say that those two things are the things that are, for me, the most exciting also, because people are looking at the stuff, whatever it is, with a different prism that is, you know, very, very interesting.
Lohan? Mm-hmm. Mhm. Mhm. So open mindset, flexible mindset, and great team. Those things are important when we speak about innovations. And today is also a big day because Mission France is going to be launched. And Luca, I would like to ask you to explain to us and to tell us more about Software Republic.
The Software Republic is an association of 6 large French companies, French and European companies that are from the CAC 40, which is, I don't know what it means, but anyway. So those big guys, basically, they have a lot of talents inside, but innovation is very, very difficult inside big organization. I mean, this is, it happens sometimes, but I mean, innovation comes a lot from those small entities, that are forced to succeed most of the time. And so after that, they might be acquired by the big guys, but the idea of creating the Software Republic was to create a small entity between the 6 of them with a bunch of startups that we are looking at and that we are incubating, basically, in order to create this, emulation that I was talking about before. So we take talents and people that love risk, from the different companies. We put them together. We then, mix that with some startups, and we create real projects that the clients might be the big guys or might be somebody else. It doesn't matter, but basically we are creating inside startup culture in order to try to create something from there. So this is what the Software Republic is. That's why we are very eager to meet more startups, and this is exactly what is going to happen this afternoon, because Mission France is basically to be able to select, and we'll be very happy to welcome them in Paris, the winners, to welcome them in June.
Great, thank you. And Frank, you personally have an interesting path when we speak about career. Can you share with us your entrepreneurship path and some of the most important lessons learned in this process?
Okay, so I will make a long story short. So, well, I just a point. I had my PhD thesis in University of Lille. Then I spent almost 7 years in Japan, where my mindset changed. I must tell, it's an intentional.
In which way?
Well, this is not exactly the same way of making research, at least in my discipline. Maybe in Japan they are more making soon the experiment when they have an idea. In France, maybe people think a bit more, which has advantages and disadvantages. So if you take both of this way of thinking, maybe you can make something better. I don't know. Then I came back to France at the University of Lille. And when I came back, there was a trend of promoting participation, still now, to European project. And I was a bit innocent, I was young. And I applied to a European project on biorefineries as a coordinator, and I got 40 million euros. I did not have any idea of what that meant. I understood what kind of work it was just after getting this huge amount of money. And in this biorefinery project, we were about 30 partners, I don't remember exactly. Half of them were industrials. And then we had to go from tier, let's say 3 to tier 9. We had to commercialize some products. So I learned a lot because I was a coordinator of the whole project, but I needed a coordinator from the industry. Actually, one of one of the people from the industry helped me a lot, and I learned so many things. So in the end, we had 33 patents, and came the idea to have these patents going to reality. And I was still innocent, and well, we could, with one patent from my team, we could make a spin-off company. Actually, we did. It was a TeamCat Solutions company, which sells some new kind of apparatus to make high-throughput technologies for catalysis. It's kind of robots or parallelized equipment in order to accelerate science. And then the second point, which is, I think, a bit more interesting. So then I became director of a lab, of catalysis lab in Lille. And one day, one student, undergraduate student, came to my office. Could I talk to you? I said, yes, please talk. I would like to know if you have patents in your lab I could use to make a company. So I looked at him, okay. And he made me some proposals looking at the patents. The proposals were not good at all. But that was not the problem, because by discussing, I understood he was very serious. And we refined the project together, and now he has a startup company. And he's raising funds, and I am a scientific officer inside of this company. And I see a huge potential. So in between, he had his master and blah, blah. And I saw someone growing from a student, undergraduate student, to a real entrepreneur. I was amazed about the conversion I see, and I know the recipe now because I lived this recipe myself. And this is one of the things I learned, is that maybe we are focusing too much on well-installed researchers for innovation, but we should also target the young generation, because some of them have innocent ideas, but you can, by talking with them, motivate them to do the job. And he's young, so he has not so many things to lose by making this, you see. So he could make some, he dared to see a lot of people. He has letters from big companies to buy his product. And blah, blah. I was amazed about this. Then the second point I learned is that, in fact, when you talk with the industry, I'm an academic, you see that finally the industry is not that different from what you do in university. It's a kind of phantasm we have to say, well, the time length is different between university and industry. I think the time length or the way we develop things is the same. It's just, it depends on if you focus on basic research. Of course, the time length is long. If you focus on intermediate trials, you have the same pressure and the same will to accelerate things. And maybe the last thing I learned is that you should be aware that obviously a good scientist won't necessarily make a good CEO. And a lot of scientists, I mean, well-installed scientists, when they have something which can become an innovation, they want to keep the lead till the end on this innovation. And from what I judged, from the experiences I see around me, usually the end is not very, very nice. So you have to pass on your baby to someone who knows how to develop innovation and to make business, while keeping an eye and being of help if you have to develop further things on the technology you created.
Great, and interesting point about future generations. We made also one research about Generation Z, and it's really the generation that have like entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial approach to different things. And Lorraine, technology progress enable us to live better, longer, more comfortable. What are the socio-economic targets you are targeting through your projects and spin-offs? Mm-hmm. Okay, great, thank you. And for the end of this panel session, let's try to simulate elevator speech. So you are in an elevator with a startup founder, and you need to give him one piece of advice on how to succeed in a specific field this startup is actually dedicated to. What would you tell them? So, look.
So I'm going to repeat, what we have all said. I mean, the flexibility that we are talking about. I mean, be flexible. I mean, be ready. Don't be stubborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, you're certainly right, but you might be wrong. So be ready to accept what the market or the people are going to tell you in order to pivot when you have to.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Well, I would say in bioeconomy, biorefineries, two things. The first thing is do not try to copy what the petro industry is doing, be disruptive. And for the second thing, please develop crazy ideas. This is a notion of risk we mentioned, because crazy ideas will give you something new and disruptive anyway.
Lohan? And apply for Mission France. Thank you very much for really insightful answers. If anyone from audience have questions, you can just think we have time for one, but then after everything we can no one? Okay. If no one have no questions, so there is one.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a question, maybe for Frank, maybe for everybody else. You mentioned the importance of success stories, but I think there is also an importance of failed stories. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a very interesting question. So what we identified in Lille, but maybe in most of the universities, is that we do not communicate enough on our successes, which is, as a whole, a pity, because people don't know what we are doing, especially on the field of innovation and spin-off companies. We have some successes, but nobody knows. So if nobody knows, it does not exist. Well, I'm kidding, but we want to motivate people. Of course, the failure is something which is very important, but not at the same stage. When you want people to try to make a spin-off, first show the nice cases, and then, for example, like in Station F, just mentioned before, people would discuss together, and they will have good practices for what you have to do to have success, but also some failures, and then you learn from this. But first, for the publicity or advertisement, just in my opinion, the success stories are nice, and then you are getting into the real life, and you learn from the failures, obviously, because you never make anything without making failures. Learning is making failures every time.
Yeah, I think that it's very, very important to fail at one point, because, I mean, you learn, as you just said. I mean, I go back to the Silicon Valley. In the Silicon Valley, when you go to the VCs, the people that are going to give you money, right? When you go to them, the very, very first time, I mean, if you didn't fail already, it's going to be more difficult, you know, that if you succeed all the time. Because if you succeeded all the time, this is something weird, right? So you need to show your scars, basically, and to show that you did, learn a lot from your failures. So this is what they love there.
Thank you. I'm not sure if we have time for one additional question. Yeah, I am, but I realize that I do not have right clock here. Okay, we have time for just one quick question and quick answer. Mm-hmm.
Hello. Very, very nice talk. And I was wondering if you could help me with some advices. For example, you talked about the right person to be CEO or scientific officer example. I'm asking this because I have this problem at this moment. For example, I'm an explorer, I'm a developer, and I'm in the same time, I'm also the CEO of my company. And now I'm a little bit in the problem because in this area of my research, I touch the stars. So at the global level, I'm the first of the first. And now I have this problem to put this into business area. I cannot do everything by myself, but if you could help me with your advice, how to find the person who would be able to make a business out of this, and in the same time to understand the topic, because it is really, really, really tough. How you choose the number one instead of you, so that you could continue with development and science further.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I mean, of course, I'm going to be quick because I'm sure we have different answers. But I mean, you don't have to find the right person the first time. As we said, I mean, you can make mistakes. So you will make mistakes, most likely. Every time I chose a CEO, I mean, I had to change it. Anyway, but the reality, I mean, go, in front of a business school, and look at the people and pick one and start to discuss, and then, create a network, among those young people, and try to find, I mean, as we said before, I mean, those young people, this young blood, is interesting. And so, of course, they're not going to have the same level that you have in terms of the technology, I mean, this is not the point. They are going to be able to understand the right thing. You are not going to have the good level in terms of business. So let him or her do the job, of the business. You do the job of the technology. You explain enough, in order for him or her to be excited. And this is what you need. You need excitement, at the business level. And do that with going to the outside of the school.
Yeah. Maybe another comment. It's actually a typical situation in innovation, and I have plenty of examples in mind where actually the CTO is a brilliant researcher having a very nice idea, but he needs to find someone from the business side. But surprisingly, what I have in mind is, of course, network is very important. Through the network you create around your activity, you might meet someone who will be the pair with you together in this company to manage also the financial part, this very important part. Of course, the two parts are very important, but you have really to find someone to work with a great experience. And in many times, the person in charge of the business part is usually a senior. The CTO is usually a young, brilliant researcher, but of course, you cannot know everything. And all from the financial side, you need expertise also in this part of the activity.
And trust.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for really insightful answers and your contribution. So I'm now going to invite the speakers for our next roundtable, which has the title Lab to Market. So it is with great pleasure to invite Jasmina Grbović, head of the Center of Excellence for Hydrogen and Renewable Energy. Grbović-Novaković. Vesna Bonet, head of the robotics sector of the LACRS laboratory. Thank you. And Marko Batic, he is director for international cooperation at Mihailo Pupin Institute. Please take a seat. I'm just going to pick my mobile phone because I needed to see the time. Thank you. Okay. Okay, great. So thank you very much for joining us. The whole idea of the Serbian-French Innovation Forum is actually to foster cooperation between private, academia, and government institutions. Therefore, now we are going to share some examples of partnerships. And first, I would like to actually try to navigate the future of mobility and this topic when we speak about it. So, Jasmina, what does the future of mobility actually mean to you, and how is your cooperation with NEEL Institute in Grenoble contributing to it?
So thank you for the question. Before I speak about future, I want to tell something about past.
Okay.
So back in 2012, my team was involved in one huge European project related to hydrogen economy. So in our team, in the center, we have two groups. One deals with theory, one deals with experiments. So when we had the first kickoff meeting in this project in Rome, I had to choose where to be present, so in which working group. So I chose to be present in and to present Serbia in the part dealing with theory. And before me, a leader of the French team stand up and said that his work and work of his group relies mostly on the work of Vinci team. So first I was surprised, then I was stunned, and after that we start a collaboration that is working till now. From 2012 till now, we had bilateral collaborations, individual fellowships. We developed a conference here in Belgrade together with the French Cultural Center. We also had developed some joint research activities, and after that, some plenary lectures at worldwide conferences, so all together. And finally, in last year, we started to collaborate with a company, Jomini, this company was the second one developed by the leader of the French team, Professor Daniel Frouchard, who is actually Director Emeritus of CNRS. The first company he made is McFly, and McFly is, in our field, one of the biggest company existing in the world, which deals with electrolyzers. Recently, last year, they installed 1 gigawatt of electrolyzers in the city of Belfort in France. So for us, the futures look like will be similar, because the similar things we do here, we want also to develop a startup, and we will go forward that, and we will increase the mobility of our research, but not toward research, but toward acquiring knowledge in how we can lead startups and how we can make startups.
Okay, great, thank you. And now I would like to ask something, Vensa. So we spoke during the previous roundtable, we spoke a lot about health and health tech and so on. And when we speak about this, biomechanics is proven to be very useful actually in medicine. It also plays a crucial role in treatment and rehabilitation. How different programs can support research in biomechanics application to health?
Okay, so biomechanics, it's a very broad term. It goes from material science to biology to mechanical engineering. So when I speak about biomechanics here, I speak about human motion analysis. So when you are patients and you are going through a rehabilitation process, it's very important that the clinician can assess the progress of the rehabilitation process. And in France, you can do the so-called analyse quantifiée de la marche. So you will go in a big room with a very complex and very expensive system, the same one that is used in video game and in the cinema industry. And then there will be a dedicated engineer that will ask you to walk and analyze your motion and so on. And the social security system in France will refund this examination. So back in 2018, I started to collaborate with Serbia, with the late professor and academician Dejan Popovic. And he introduced me to a lot of clinical centers here in Serbia. So I spoke with doctors and so on. And very quickly I realized that that was the exception in France could really not be applied here in Serbia, because the people don't have enough money, they don't have enough time to spend with the patient to do this kind of analysis. So we started PhD Pavle Savic program to develop new tool for affordable and easy to use motion capture analysis system. So we started to collaborate like this, and then he introduced me to other professors at ETF, where there I found very great students that are very good in math, but also in engineering. So they have the both sides. While in France, the math side, you are either a mathematician or an engineer, and it's very hard to find people with both profiles. So basically what we did is that we asked the Erasmus program to help us to bring the Serbian student to France to do their master thesis there, to follow some master program. Then we continue by applying for a co-tutel PhD thesis. And now we have a common PhD student, and it's really a great guy. So I managed to hook him up with another PhD student that I have in France that is doing a PhD in a CIFRE. It's called a CIFRE PhD. So it's basically a PhD that is co-founded by a company. So they work together, the French student and the Serbian student, with the objective of developing a final project. And now these are two great guys. So we are discussing to maybe create something at the end. The Serbian one being so good that he's maybe thinking to stay in academic. So we will see, but I hope in the future we will be able to create something. And now I would like to thank also Campus France, because I was awarded the third PhD Pavle Savic to go now more into robotics.
You
Okay, I'm thinking everyone. So yeah, so that was my experience with Serbia. So really, I'm enjoying also the discussion with the people, and I find that the people are really dynamic, and I feel more enthusiasm here in Serbia than I could feel in France with some of my colleagues.
Thank you. And Marco, when we speak about all of those new technologies we had the opportunity to mention, so we must underline that research and development as most human and capital-intensive activity in value chain is one of the crucial determinants of innovation. But how cross-country cooperation is crucial for R&D?
Yeah, well, I would start with maybe just going back to example of Institute Mihailo Pupin. We are proud of having now 108 international projects behind us. Most of those being actually coming from the framework programs. Now the latest, the Horizon Europe, and basically I see two, I would say, main perspectives. The first one in this international cooperation is not to reinvent the wheel. So we don't want to do all over again the research that has been done outside and abroad. So we want to exchange ideas, want to learn from our foreign partners. The second is obviously being in relatively small countries such as Serbia and not being able to invest that much in science and research. What is important also to have access to large research infrastructure, which is something which comes as an obvious need for us. I personally come from the computer science background, so dealing with IT is not so exhaustive in terms of investments, requiring investment, but we also have lots of colleagues doing in a power sector where you need to have these very expensive laboratories and equipment. So this is something that is quite beneficial for us. In the end, I think we are, what we actually try to find this complementarity in different kinds of expertise, and we have been, I would say, successfully building different consortia with partners all around Europe, with 30 plus partners from France, being involved, the big players in the power industry like EDF, like ENGIE, like the RT, which is a French TSO, etc. And we are together building quite innovative and new projects, and even going a step further with building and discussing together, let's say, startups when there are specific ideas which could be further exploited beyond the projects. Of course, this comes as a win-win situation, as a mutual benefit for both the French companies, who, as we heard also previously, sometimes lack also engineers in this particular expertise, and also when they want to conquer maybe new markets, for example, like going to Far East or Africa with some new products that come from Serbia.
Great, thank you. And Yasmina, what are the main characteristics of our ecosystem you would actually pitch to investors around the globe to attract them to invest in projects you are working on?
Elisaveta, this is probably the hardest question you could ask me. Because hydrogen is at the beginning. Even in Europe still don't know what to do and how to implement hydrogen as a new fuel. But let me go back a few years ago. Serbia developed a strategy, smart specialization platform. So we understood that there is four pillars in Serbia that we can invest there. Energy is a horizontal pillar, so in that period, energy was seen as something that connects food, IT, creative industries. But a year ago or 2 years ago, with these problems of energy, we see everything's changed. So we have now in Serbia lot of small and medium enterprises that work in field of green energy. So when I say green energy, I mean solar and wind. We have a good legislation that cover investments in solar and wind. And regarding hydrogen, we are lack of that. We don't have, we still need to develop a good legislation in order to attract investments. And also what we need is a joint effort between some governmental bodies like Ministry of Science, Ministry of Mining and Energy, Ministry of Environmental Protection, in order to, with this joint effort, make the good ecosystem. We are now at the beginning. So.
Okay. Hope on our next innovation forum we are going to have like more details about this field, and we are going to improve ourselves there.
Hope to.
So, Wansa, you mentioned that you now moved into robotics, and what next can we expect when we speak about humanoid robotics?
So I will do like my colleague. I will start by speaking about the past. Back in 2004-05, when I was a PhD student in humanoid robotics, the first paper that I read was from a professor named Vuko Bratovic. It was about a concept called zero moment point. It's about how you describe the dynamical balance of a humanoid robot or a human. And basically, if you look back in time, in the 70s, 80s, the most advanced country in humanoid robots was Yugoslavia. Maybe you know about the Belgrade's robotic hand, or all the work about exoskeleton that has been done here. And I don't know why, but yesterday someone told me that Professor Vuko Bratovic back in the 70s was going by train because he was afraid to go by plane, using the Trans-Siberian to Japan to spend few weeks, and his idea there, they infuse among the scientific community. And then beginning of 2000 up to 2011, the humanoid robot, the most advanced, they were all in Japan. First, the society accept broadly the humanoid robots, but they were really top-notch in mechatronics and so on. They really had an idea, and then they were building it. Like in France, we were good more in control theory and more in like virtual stuff, let's say. And then for them, it was a real shock with the nuclear event at Fukushima in 2011 to see that they could actually not use their humanoid robot in a real-life environment. So after that, they kind of gave up on the humanoid robots, but the Americans realized that they had to do something to actually use a robot in case of a disaster or something like this. And DARPA challenges and so on, they invested a lot of money in humanoid robots. And now the most advanced humanoid robots are all in the US. Maybe you saw the great demo from Boston Dynamics company, where you see the Robo Atlas that is doing a salto jump, running, jumping, and so on. So it's amazing. Usually, every year they come to IEEE Humanoids Conference, international one, and they destroy our mood by showing their latest video, and we are like, oh, damn. But now they have competitors, actually. And the next breakthrough in humanoid robotics is going to be a massive drop in the price of the robot. So I'm the head of the group de travail in humanoid robotics in France, and we are now, the French community, buying several humanoid robots. So we ask them, can we buy your robot to Boston Dynamics? They say, it's 3 million euros, but we don't want to sell it to you anyway. So we went to other companies, and now you have Agility Robotics company that is also an American company. It's a spin-off from a university. They sell a functional humanoid robot for $250,000. Start to be more affordable. And recently, Elon Musk and Tesla, they advertised to build a humanoid robot that will be accessible for $20,000. But we know probably you can add 10 to this, but still between 100,000 and 200,000 euro for a humanoid robot, it's basically almost the price of a normal industrial robot. So we can expect to have humanoid robot on the factory floor really within the next 10 years. We are not yet to have humanoid robot inside our house. Really, we are not ready for this. There are a lot of challenges as it's really interdisciplinary. Still, the mechanics needs to be improved. Today, the humanoid robots, they more look like birds than actually human. So the knees are reversed for to use parallel mechanism and so on. And the big revolution will be in the programming of these robots, where artificial intelligence is gaining everything. So I'm a guy from control. So it means I like to do my nice mechanical model and a feedback loop and control it and understand what is happening. But actually the performance that we can achieve with artificial intelligence are much better. So we can expect that in the future you will point something to the human with robots and he will coordinate all his joints to move, and this will be done by using machine learning algorithm, where we don't know what is the model, we don't know what is happening, but it's just moving to achieve a task. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you, like 3-4 years ago, I was in Japan and in the basement of IBM, and their main building in Tokyo, they have hundreds of industrial robots that are just moving randomly and learning their own kinematic chain. They learn how to move. So you need a lot of money to do experiments like this, of course. We do it in France with small toy robots, but that's the future of humanoid robots.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Marco, what can we expect in the field of energy and biomechanics applied to the medical sector, especially when it comes to French-Serbian cooperation?
When it comes to energy, which is definitely much more in my field, as I said, we are already cooperating with the big players, mm-hmm. With the, as I said, NG, EDF, and we have the RT there. We have been working together on something that is maybe a little bit looking ahead in the future with the energy data spaces. This is initiative that comes, which has a much broader context called the industrial data spaces, but a specific one comes for the energy, which basically actually has the aim and idea to somehow leverage upon all the data that has been collected all around the energy value chain and to somehow make a benefit for all the stakeholders. So when it comes to our cooperation from the Institute Mihailo Pupin, we are building several projects even as we speak. And as I said, working on this, let's say, a joint company together with the French TSO for our, let's say, involvement in other markets. But when it comes to the research cooperation, mm-hmm. I would say this mainly comes from, let's say, EU-funded projects for us. And just wanted to have maybe a very simple message to all the researchers here in Serbia. Basically, don't wait for the big guys to come to you. You have to write down your ideas. You need to keep writing the proposals. We are well aware of the success ratio of those, which is sometimes around 5%. And don't let this discourage you, mm-hmm. in this sense. This is the way that we have been practicing in our institute in the last 15 years. So build up your ideas, write the proposals, then go with those proposals to the big guys, offer them the coordinatorship. This is a way to do. Don't keep your baby for yourself. You have to share it. You have to somehow go outside and basically believe in your ideas. Be patient. Be let's say very stubborn in terms of the work that need to be invested. And I would say that would be the only recipe. Coming from a relatively small country, as I said, to be successful in the big floor of the European-based funding.
Okay, great. And because also we have today students with us, I would just like to ask all of you about some job of the futures you see that are most needed in your field. Yasmina?
So what we have in our center are 25 researchers starting from physics, physical chemistry, and chemists. But hydrogen needs something different, so what we need also are engineers, so mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, IoT, IT. We also need economists, mm-hmm. and we also need to have some good IP experts. So if from this forum I could say something, what we need is, for example, a joint master study or joint PhD study in the field of hydrogen in all these areas. So then in 5-10 years, we have an expert that could join all this together, because hydrogen is not just research activity. This is something that we need to implement in order to decrease the energy dependence that we have. So for us, first engineers and economists, this is, as I see, a job of the future.
Marco?
Well, I would say the most simple answer, which is most common one, is data scientists. So the people that want to deal with data, also nowadays involving more and more different AI techniques. But I would like to stress here that that doesn't mean necessarily that we all have to be AI experts and data scientists. And from the example from my previous group that I led before coming to this position, was we had lots of people coming from the automation and control department actually, who then actually learned very well the data science techniques and then applied them. So it's not just up to having data science on a syntax level. You need to understand the semantics, and for this you need to have the engineers from different let's say different kinds of expertise. So nowadays this AI is just trying to is not trying, it's actually getting into every I would say part of the science, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to abandon the traditional engineering expertise. This is something that we just need to complement. So in this sense we have to learn to educate ourselves in this manner in whatever engineering, let's say, expertise you're dealing with.
Okay, thank you. Also?
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. We really need people that can use AI, but also that can understand it. So for the students, math is, I know it's a bit harsh to learn, but it's really important if you want to understand and not just apply these tools. I believe that in robotics, the future is going to be a gray box model. So it's so you will need to know all the basics in mechanical modeling and so on, and integrate this into neural networks and so on. So we really need people that have knowledge in math and in programming to do this actually, and not only be a user of a big Google TensorFlow toolbox and so on. That's what I think.
Great, thank you. So I would like to ask if we now have any questions from your side. Okay, then I have one. The topic we are here discussing is lab to market, but through this stronger cooperation between Serbian and French institutions, organizations, and so on. How would you further encourage this cooperation?
Me? Yeah, what I would like to see, okay, it's mobility is one of the possibilities, but I would be very happy to see a joint research project, but not joint research project that will have as a final goal work papers, but with the final goal to produce the product that could be sold in the market. So in our field, in the field of energy and hydrogen, the joint research projects could be one of the possibilities.
Also?
I will say something that is not really politically correct, but I think the first thing to do is to bypass the German, because most of the best students in Serbia, they all go to DLR, KIT, and to TUM. So I'm trying to change this flow. Really, I invest myself a lot going to speak with the students and so on, to present them how cool the life in France is. Sometimes I lie a little bit. The second thing is, I agree with you, we need to stop to work only for one paper, but to have really a long-term project, to have continuity in the things. So maybe we should think with CNRS to create a joint laboratory like it exists with many other countries. That's what I think.
Danke. Merci. And Marco?
Yeah, it's another story from our institute. Basically, when it comes to Germans, we actually had this joint research center with Fraunhofer University, and basically
Again,
then we moved on. That was the inception phase. Then we moved on, and this actually ended sometime in 2010, 11, and then we moved forward. We also, the professor Vukobratovic that was mentioned here actually worked in Institute Mihailo Pupin all his career, and Dan Popovic was also our very close associate. So we had, for example, a couple of our associates actually doing these joint PhDs in French universities, from Grenoble, for example. Some of those people actually, young women actually stayed in France, but some people actually came back. We also have just this reverse brain drain, so some of the people actually come back to Serbia, especially those who have ability to apply the research in more computer science, data science, which is now, let's say, I would say more, not just recognized, but it's simply better, I would say, conditions in Serbia to work for. This is not something that is maybe, that is true for other engineering expertise, but at least for this one actually stands. So I would just encourage them to either come to Institute Mihailo Pupin, where they will be able to actually meet some of our 30+ French partners, or where they can actually do joint PhDs together with the School of Electrical Engineering and the Institute Mihailo Pupin, and also to be able to work on some fresh proposals for the EU funding. As I said, we need to, I'm just talking now to the Serbian people, to the young research, you need to sit down, write your ideas, get the help, little help from the seniors, but basically it comes up to actually do the hard work on your own, not expecting for anybody to pull you from the pool of the research, because this will not happen. So it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. So great advices. We have time for one more question from audience. Here is one.
Thank you. My name is Mladen. I'm from the Faculty of Agriculture, experimental field for grapevine, and I have one question for all guests and for Franch also. I'm not sure if they know that Marcellan, that's grape variety, it's also innovation. So you were talking about robotics, but there are also a lot of fields, because Marcellan was created at the University of Montpellier, but also we in Serbia, grape variety Morava is created at our experimental field. So it's innovation that you can taste in restaurants in Belgrade also. So I think it's amazing, because innovation are much wider than because we are talking only about robotics and these things, but I think it's great that we have innovations in many other fields. And
sure, yeah.
Yes, and France Embassy was at our experimental field, but we have just great lunch. I would like in future to put our students in French. It was in the past the case, our professors, and our researcher is a member of French Academy. Vlada Kovac, he's still alive in Novi Sad. I think it's good to mention. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we also had like one program, Study in France, Work in Serbia, at the Faculty of Agriculture in Novi Sad, where we spoke about innovations in this field. So the question was... Yeah, the comment. Okay. So thank you very much for your participation. It was really great to have you. You're welcome. So now we have our third roundtable. Next steps, because we are close to the end of our second Serbian-French Innovation Forum, so we would like, through our next roundtable, to conclude with next steps. It is with great pleasure to have today here with us Koviljka Stankovic, professor at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering in Belgrade. Welcome, Koviljka. Then Jean-Baptiste Boisset, Vosu. Institute for Open Diplomacy and Caption Strategies Consultant. Welcome, Jean-Baptiste. And Solène Chevalier, French Ministry for Research and Science, the Horizon Europe Widening Program. So welcome. Sorry, yes. Okay, thank you very much. So we started those roundtables with the fact that when we actually at our universities learn about innovation, we learn that it is also important part to do this monetization and commercialization. But what we also learn, especially when it comes to business faculties, is actually that there is no free lunch. So let's speak about financial or methodological tools that can actually promote this Franco-Serbian cooperation. So first for Solène, let's start with this, how the Horizon Europe program can support scientific cooperation between Serbia and France.
Thank you. I would like just to remind what is Horizon Europe, to make sure we are all talking about the same thing. So Horizon Europe is a framework program for European cooperation in research and innovation. There are 95 billion euros for 7 years, and it includes member states and associated countries such as Serbia. I will describe quickly how it works, but there are 4 pillars. The first one is dedicated to excellence with the ERC, for instance. The second pillar is tackles the main current issues in health, agriculture, space, industry, humanities, and so on. The third pillar is dedicated to innovation, but I'm not in charge of this part, so I won't be very effective in describing it. But there are, for instance, the European Innovation Council and the European Innovation Ecosystems. And the fourth pillar, I'm in charge too for France, is the so-called widening pillar. So there are calls for projects which are designed for widening countries, which are countries with lower performance in research and innovations in confront with European standards. And Serbia is a widening country. And my goal is to encourage the cooperation between Serbia and France in this kind of calls for projects. So very quickly, what are the widening calls for projects? They are mainly coordination and support actions. So they aim to develop the local innovation and research ecosystems in widening countries within European cooperations. There are different kind of calls, so different kinds of team setups. For instance, you can create a center of excellence in the widening countries with the teaming. It's up to 15 million euros. You have also the twinning. It's a very good tool. It consists to put together 3 countries with, of course, a widening country around a common scientific topic. You have also excellence hubs, which consist to put together 2 innovation ecosystems in 2 widening countries, and so on. You have also calls for mobility with different kind of fellowships for researchers, postdoc, and also more generally academic sectors staffs. So I encourage you, of course, to apply to this kind of calls. The idea that Serbia will be the main beneficiary and the coordinator, and France will be the first partner. And I would like also to mention that these calls are completely bottom-up, so you can propose whatever you want, just your common scientific topic. So this is for widening, and so of course I'm here to discuss with you about these calls. And just very quickly, the second thing I would like to let you know is regarding the European innovation ecosystem. So it's in the 3rd pillar of Horizon Europe. So again, I'm not in charge of this part, so I won't be able to describe a lot, but I think it's important to let you know that it exists, because it consists to, again, with cooperation, to link, to connect different innovation ecosystems in different European countries. And some of these calls, I think the name is Connect, they are specifically dedicated to widening countries. So again, is it done for Serbia and other widening countries, of course? So the idea is for you to apply to this kind of calls and to think about France as the first partner, of course.
Thank you. And Koveljka, we are actually now, from this economic point of view, in very interesting time period, especially when it comes to energy crisis. And now we saw that this week OPEC announced to cut the production. That's mean new higher prices and so on. So speaking about energy, France has the largest number of nuclear reactors in Europe. What is the potential of nuclear power in Serbia?
So, thank you for this question, because it's very challenging to answer that question. Serbia adopted to follow overall EU goal on Paris Climate Convention, but up to this date, Serbia did almost nothing on decarbonization, so our carbon footprint is very high. So Serbia, as you know, is one of the leading countries in Europe when we're talking about pollution. Mm-hmm. So we need to make major changes in our energy mix, because we have 70% of energy produced by thermal power plants. At this moment, Serbia makes drafts for very important documents. One of them is Integrated National Plan for Energy and Climate. So this document should give us solutions how to minimize this carbon footprint. And there are 4 proposed scenarios in the document. All scenarios have 2 options. Each of them are with nuclear energy and without. So I can say that there is maybe some small hope that mm-hmm. Serbia will consider nuclear energy as a source, clean source for the future. In that sense, we have lots of hard job to do in the future, but we have France here to learn from them. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we already started. I mean, from the university point of view, I'm the one of few in Serbia teaching nuclear engineering, and I have very, very nice, excellent students. So we already make some kind of cooperation with France, and we have for this academic year 2 of our students which are French scholarship holders. Mm-hmm. One is studying now at Paris-Saclay and the other one at IMT Atlantique. So I hope that we will make in the future some more and some kind of some specific cooperation in education, just to have some small workforce which can be then grow by time.
Okay, great, thank you. And Jean-Baptiste, there are articles showing that next generation computing could help find answers to problems that have actually be seen in science and society for years. What do you think?
Well, I think that you're right, basically, because of several things that we've seen in the past years. Actually, quantum computing, which is a very specific type of computing, because nobody will ever access a quantum laptop. It's really something for the industry, you know, because of the way it works. It has been quite an old discipline compared to, I don't know, artificial intelligence or things like that. You know, everybody's talking about ChatGPT. But when you think about quantum computing, the first experiment conducted in a laboratory was in 1976. So actually, it's not that recent. So it's a good thing to acknowledge that research takes time, but at the moment, it's really speeding up. I'm sure that some of you remember that in 2019, Google announced its quantum supremacy, saying that a quantum computer beat the best supercalculator that we had on Earth on very specific topics. It has been controversial, but it shows that it's spinning up. And maybe to illustrate that, IBM, which is one of the leading companies in this segment, has been developing a quantum computer, and every year it has been more than doubling its power. So IBM Eagle, as an example, in November 2021, was 127 qubits, and today, 2 years later, it's aiming at more than 1,000 qubits. So it's more than Moore's law, for those who knows that concept in informatics. So it's more than doubling every year. Another really interesting aspect is that the companies that are involved in this segment are of very various typologies. When you think about ChatGPT as an example, or artificial intelligence, you only have a handful of companies, maybe from 5 to 7, globally, worldwide, that are capable today to develop such tools. In quantum computing, it's not the case. You have big players, Google, IBM, Tencent, Alibaba, big companies that we know to be digital companies, but also companies outside of this field. Honeywell is a very good example. It's an American manufacturer of industrial processes that has the H0, which is one of the most advanced quantum computer at the moment. And you also have very small players, but very innovative. France is a very good example of that ecosystem. We have a lot of companies, Alice and Bob, Candela, Pascal. There are small companies, maybe about 100 or 200 people, but are developing the same system, at least with the same efficacy, than Google and IBM. So I think that this is really showing that the field is spinning up. And one very interesting thing, because we are talking about financial and methodological tools, is that the ecosystem is really structuring. So in France, we have the first VC fund that is totally dedicated to quantum computing, which is called Quantonation. And it's really important, I think, in order to unlock those technologies, to have these specific organizations that are completely outside of the startup ecosystem and the research laboratories, you know, in order to bolster this innovation and these trends.
Okay, great. And Soren, are there any challenges in developing cooperation through any available program such Horizon is?
Yes, of course, there are a lot of challenges because we don't do research in the same way in all countries. The state of development of different institutions are not the same. Because also national priorities are not always the same, so it can be very difficult to align the different national priorities also with the European priorities. But for me, the main challenge is to access an excellent network. It's not sufficient to just knock on the door and see who opens the door. So maybe it's the main challenge, but don't worry, it's not impossible. That's why we are here today. I mean, this kind of event is done also to put together people who want to work together with a common subject. And that's why also it's a bit advertising, but why the NCP networks, the National Contact Point, so people like me, are here also because we can help you to understand the European text, the European codes, which can be a bit difficult. And we are here also to help you to set up cooperations. So please don't hesitate if you, especially for France, if you want to set up cooperation with friends, I'm here to help you.
Great, thank you. And Kovilka, during your first answer, you mentioned a lot of challenges actually we are facing when it comes to nuclear energy. So can you maybe tell us, Jean-Baptiste mentioned some next big things when it comes to quantum computing. So what are the next big things in your field? And how far are we from decarbonization of our economy and society? Because you also mentioned that we are very polluted, we know that, sure, because we are living here, but yeah.
Yeah, so we are in Serbia, let's say, very far from implementing nuclear energy, even if we say yes today to nuclear energy. That is the process which lasts 10 to 15 years in European space. Maybe in Chinese space it's much faster, but in European space it takes 10 to 15 years to implement a new nuclear program, new nuclear power plant. We have here lots of obstacles because we have a ban on nuclear energy, law which prohibits the nuclear power application in Serbia, so we have first to lift that ban to accept this nuclear option in our integrated plan for energy and climate, and then to start to think about nuclear energy. Also, we have problems as our policy and decision makers said that we don't have a workforce in nuclear sector. So that's the reason why Serbia cannot implement nuclear energy. But that is not a justified reason, since that process lasts 10 to 15 years, so we have enough time to educate a new and fresh young workforce for this type of energy. And also we have opportunity to cooperate with France in such kind of education. But I think that even we want to fulfill that decarbonization goal, from this moment, maybe we can take just last train at this moment, if we say yes. If we say no, so we are for sure fail.
Yeah.
So we need to make some big changes. And I started with my students some, how to say, bottom-up approach, because our population, public opinion is very negative to nuclear energy in Serbia. So we decided to establish a Serbian Nuclear Society to educate people and to educate new generations to change their opinion about nuclear energy, and maybe this is the way to try to implement some clean energy source in Serbia finally.
Great, thank you. And Jean-Baptiste, so we at Serbian French Innovation Forum, sure, we speak a lot about this cooperation and about different fields we can cooperate on. So when it comes to your field, so quantum computing, where do you see French and Serbia in this field in the period to come?
Well, I think France and Serbia share a thing that is really the basis of developing a quantum computer and a quantum computing ecosystem, which is a very impressive and thriving research ecosystem. But there are several challenges to that regard in order to make it an efficient one. The first one would be to keep your researchers at home, or at least working in consortium.
least not in Germany.
At least not in Germany, first. I actually discovered recently a good example with Serbia. One of the researchers that is really working as a top-notch researcher in quantum computing is Vladan Vuletic. I hope I did not tear it down the pronunciation.
It's okay.
But actually he's working at the MIT, you know, and I think that's a good example that we need really an impressive ecosystem, not only because of salaries, because when you do a check, the amount is important, but also where it goes, you know. So you gotta really have methodological tools in order to point out where you want to put your money, your logistics, in order to retain all this R&D ecosystem. Because, as an example with quantum computing, it's still an R&D process. Like it's not economically viable at the moment. It will be one day, of course, but not at the moment. And so that's very important to have those researchers, but from different fields working together. Minister Begovic mentioned this morning a very important project for Serbia, which is these 4Bs biocluster. And that's very important because for quantum computing, it might be the first real breakthrough, developing new drugs and new medicines. But one thing is to have a quantum computer. Of course, it requires physicists and mathematicians. But another thing is to use it for concrete applications, you know. And if you don't have biophysicists, if you don't have biochemists, if you don't have pharmacologists that can explain to you how you can use this tool, because it will remain a tool, in order to put that in concrete results, you will not go any further. And there is something very important about that, which is to bring in the companies that might help this ecosystem to become a real structure. As an example, the pharmaceutical environment is very poor from that point of view in quantum computing. The only example today that I have, at least, is Novo Nordisk, the Danish company that created a 200 million fund dedicated to that question. And I think that we need more champions like that of any size involved in gathering those researchers, those industrial, in order to foster this innovation. And at the moment, the biopharmaceutical model, at least from the R&D point of view, is completely broken, and everybody agrees on that. And that's why quantum computing, if not the magical solution, would definitely be something that might help to that extent. And French and Serbian researchers would be key to that.
Okay, great. So I would like to ask, okay, we have one question from audience.
From Novi Sad. So I respect a lot the stories, the successful stories about energy, but there are also some people that are doing other things. I think that veterinarians heal the whole mankind. So we already have cooperation with colleagues from ANSES, from France, and we are planning to write a twinning project. So my question is for you from the French Ministry. Another partner will be from Spain, so we already have the whole story, but probably we will need help. So my question is how French Ministry of Education can help to people, to researchers, to complete the project proposal, and if we will find some problems, how can we solve with your help? Is there any contact point, any contact person for that?
Thank you for this question, and congrats for for preparing this twinning. So I have all my counterparts in different countries, so they are here also, and they are also in Spain. So what we can do is to work all together within meetings, you know, on Teams or whatever, in order to meet all together and to answer your question directly, because we can also do the link between the European Commission and you, so it's easier to ask directly the NCPs the question, and then we ask directly the European Commission. So we can, of course, organize a meeting if you want to, and we can also proofreading and read your project. I think it depends on the countries and the organization. For instance, in France, I am alone, I don't have a team, so I can't read every project, of course. but I can help the French part of the project if they have a specific question for their work package, or I don't know how you are organizing your project, but of course we can organize a common meeting.
Thank you. Here is one more question, and I would kindly ask this to be the last one because we are
me again.
Run out of time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Giving me the floor. So also the question for the lady from the ministry.
Yes,
Chevalier. Yeah, okay. So we already connected just a moment ago. We will discuss it further. But I'm coming, as I said, from a small medium enterprise. And we have expertise in food authenticity, and we already have some feedbacks from French part from some organizations. It's not directly feedback, but mouth to mouth. This what we are doing is very, very interesting for France, because we have actually some solutions for detecting authenticity of wine better than it is performed at the moment in France, and we see that it is very interesting for French customs detecting economical adulterations for the wine and honey and milk and everything which is entering French territory. So I was thinking if there would be a possibility for you to discuss this further and to see if we can find some connections with French ministries or French organizations where we can continue further with our talkings. Thank you very much. If that could be...
Of course.
Thank you.
That will be just my answer. Of course, we can discuss further about this. And the little thing that, as you are an SME, yes, we have to discuss, because all widening calls don't work for SMEs, because it's mainly expected that the coordinators will be universities or public or private research organizations. But then you can integrate another project with universities or research organizations. But yes, we have to discuss further in detail.
Okay, and for conclusion, I would like to conclude with something we actually started with. It's about innovation mindset. So can you share very shortly one example of the best innovation mindset you ever seen? Kovidika?
So I work in engineering field, in academic area, research areas. So we have opportunity to see lots of great ideas. Now it's with the younger generation, we have more and more ideas which are very great. So I really could just say one is so great.
Okay.
We have here and also around Europe lots of very, very good ideas and innovations.
Jean-Baptiste?
I'm thinking about one example precisely, and the advice linked to that would be to really be open-minded when you develop a technology, especially if it's a fundamental one. There is a guy whose name is David Wanland, actually, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics several years ago, and he conducted the first experiments about quantum computing, at least single atoms manipulation, and he discovered that he might apply those principles to atomic clocks which are just based on the same principle but for other applications. You know, and today these atomic clocks are the basis of the GPS system or the Galileo one for the Europeans. So that's a good example of how focusing on an incredibly small world, quantum one, eventually helped the incredibly large one, relativity. And so I think it's a good idea to conduct innovation. You know, not see it as a linear processes. But not circular either, more as a spiral, you know, like you gotta use what you were working on, not maybe for your first objective, but if you find something along the way, just go for it, it might be worth it.
Excellent.
I have to confess, I haven't done my homework on this question, so I have no precise example, but for me the best innovation mindset is about to be able to create cooperation, of course, again, at very wide levels, so European and international levels. That means that to be able to confront also with other ways to work, with other methods, with other point of view. And so this is for me the best innovation mindset.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for very insightful answers, and thank you for participating at this innovation forum. So, thank you. So we are coming to the end of the second Innovation Forum. I would like to thank all of you for coming today, for speaking, for having great questions. It was really my pleasure to be the host of this event, and see you next year again in Belgrade. Thank you very much. Danke, merci beaucoup.